In a courtroom thick with silence and tension, a single sentence brought the entire Brown family legacy crashing down. This marriage was never about love. It was a business transaction disguised as faith. The judge's words echoed like a gavel to the heart, stunning everyone from seasoned attorneys to the camera crews waiting outside the courthouse steps. At the center of the storm stood Kody Brown, his hands trembling at the defense table, face drained of color, eyes flickering between rage and regret. Robyn sat beside him, clutching tissues, her jaw clenched and eyes glassy. Across the room, Christine, Janelle, and even Mary sat in eerie unity, their attorneys flanked by boxes of evidence, emails, financial statements, property deeds, all revealing a truth they had suspected for years but had never dared say aloud. The courtroom wasn't just reviewing a marriage, it was dissecting a business empire cloaked in the illusion of polygamy, where love was marketed, loyalty was monetized, and the sisterhood was little more than a well-oiled content machine. It wasn't just a divorce anymore, it was an The plaintiffs, Christine and Janelle, alleged that Kody's marital structure had never been about spiritual connection but financial consolidation. The lawsuit claimed that behind the facade of multiple wives was a paper trail of manipulated assets, hidden property deals, and unequal financial access. Kody had presented the wives as equals on television, but in the shadows, legal power had been transferred solely to Robyn, bank accounts merged, properties retitled, and tax advantage manipulated to keep control in one corner of the family. Christine's voice shook as she testified, describing the moment she realized her years of emotional labor and public humiliation had been used to generate income she would never see. "We weren't partners," she said. "We were leverage." The audience in the gallery gasped, strangers, fans, even members of the legal press, who now realized they weren't just watching a messy breakup, they were witnessing the unmasking of a decades-long fraud. And then came the evidence. Emails from 2016 where Kody called Christine's segment on the show "great ROI." Texts between him and TLC producers describing Robyn as the brand's anchor wife. Spreadsheets from the family's LLC showing all earnings channeled through Robyn's name. And finally, the jaw-dropper, a signed affidavit from a former accountant stating that Kody had deliberately advised him to allocate media profits and property growth under entities shielded from the wives, except Robyn. The courtroom collectively inhaled. Robyn wept. Kody stared down, his voice barely audible as he muttered, "This was supposed to be ours, all of us." But the damage was done. The illusion had shattered. The judge's voice cut through the room once more. "Mr. Brown, you did not build a family, you built a brand. And when that brand no longer served you, you discarded its foundation." The silence was suffocating. Outside, news vans roared to life. Inside, the story of a family who preached love and equality had collapsed under the weight of betrayal and grief. If part 1 was the eruption, part 2 was the ash cloud spreading over everything the Browns had ever built. After the judge's brutal declaration that Kody's marriages functioned as business tools rather than sacred bonds, the courtroom shifted its gaze to the woman who had come to symbolize the split, Robyn Brown. The prosecution's star witness wasn't Christine, it wasn't Janelle, it was a forensic accountant named Angela Breyer, who specialized in tracking shell companies, trust funds, and hidden financial flows. She took the stand armed with spreadsheets, screenshots, and decades of experience. "This wasn't a family budget," she told the jury. "This was a controlled revenue funnel, and at the top of the funnel sat one name, Robyn Sullivan Brown." What looked like a family tree was actually a financial pyramid, and Robyn was the Angela began unraveling a tangled web of LLCs, trusts, and tax shelters that had been created following Kody's legal divorce from Mary. At the time, it was portrayed as a loving gesture to help Robyn's children gain legal protection. But according to the accountant, that legal shift changed everything. The moment Kody made Robyn his only legal wife, Angela said, he consolidated all family assets into entities she could sign off on: land titles, show payments, book deals, cameo earnings, even speaking gigs. A ripple of gasps filled the room. Charts displayed on courtroom monitors showed Kody and Robyn's shared LLC, ironically named Faith Unity Holdings, receiving over 85% of the family's post-2014 income. Christine leaned forward in her chair, her jaw tight. Janelle was expressionless, but her hand gripped the armrest so hard her knuckles turned white. It had been one thing to suspect inequality, it was another to see it laid bare in Excel rows and legal filing. Angela continued, pulling up tax records showing how Robyn's name appeared on the Coyote Pass property deeds, while Christine and Janelle were quietly removed through refinancing maneuvers they hadn't been informed about. It wasn't just emotional manipulation, Angela stated, it was financial erasure. The courtroom fell silent. This wasn't favoritism, it was asset control. The defense attempted to paint this as standard family financial planning. Kody's lawyer, visibly sweating, argued that Robyn simply took on the responsibility because others didn't want it. But under cross-examination, Angela produced emails from 2018, where Kody explicitly told a financial advisor, keep it all in Robyn's name. The others don't need to worry about paperwork. The implication, he wanted them to be in the dark. Then came the personal testimony. Christine took the stand next. Her voice was clear but heavy with betrayal. She spoke of countless times Kody brushed off questions about mortgage documents or land surveys. He told me I was being dramatic, she said, that I didn't understand how property worked, but he knew exactly what he was doing. The courtroom watched as Christine pulled out a single sheet of paper. Her name, once listed on the joint ownership form for Coyote Pass, had been crossed out in red ink. No explanation, no phone call, just erased. This wasn't a divorce, it was a deletion. Robyn's turn came, and the tension spiked. She looked smaller than ever, makeup smudged, hands trembling as she adjusted the microphone. She denied wrongdoing, claiming she only signed what Kody told her to, but the prosecutors weren't interested in pity. They presented a photo of her posing beside a sold sign at the Flagstaff mansion in 2019, purchased in her name, with funds traced back to the family's pooled earnings. Did Christine know her equity helped buy this house? The attorney asked. Robyn froze, then whispered no. The damage was complete, and then the judge spoke again. In most divorces, we divide houses, cars and custody. But in this courtroom, we're dividing a public illusion. You sold America a family. What you delivered was a franchise. The courtroom exploded. Reporters ran for the and Kody, he just sat there, shoulders hunched, as if even he couldn't believe what the paper trail now confirmed. As the courtroom reeled from the judge's comparison of the Brown family to a franchise, the energy shifted. This wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It had become a full-blown dismantling of a carefully engineered narrative, but the prosecution wasn't done, because buried beneath all the land deeds, LLC filings, and marital contracts was something far more volatile than any paper trail. Christine's private journals, and what they revealed, would rattle the very foundation of the courtroom. This wasn't just a scam, it was an orchestrated emotional prison, and Christine kept receipts. Christine took the stand again, but this time, she didn't carry legal documents. She held a worn leather notebook. The courtroom stilled as she flipped it open. These are my personal notes, she began, written over the years when I didn't understand what was happening, but I knew something was wrong. Her voice quivered but didn't break, and then she started reading. March 30, 2015. Kody told me the family money was tight, said I needed to stop the Etsy shop, and let Robyn's jewelry line be the focus. He said it was better branding. Laughter erupted from the gallery, quickly silenced by the judge. Christine flipped again. July 2. Kody said I needed to move to the smaller side of the property, said Robyn's kids needed more space for spiritual peace. The courtroom didn't blink. This wasn't favoritism, it was strategy. Christine read entry after entry, quiet dismissals, gaslighting, emotional nudges, masked as spiritual guidance. Then came the 2019 entry. Kody told me, you're good for the brand, you bring the chaos the audience likes. A chill ran through the courtroom. This wasn't about merit, it was about ratings, the illusion of balance, the drama of disagreement. It had all been part of the performance. Christine, the prosecutor asked gently, why didn't you leave earlier? I did, she replied, but only physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually. He kept me trapped in the story he sold to America. That was the moment the courtroom turned from scandal to heartbreak. Viewers thought they were watching a family. They were watching a scripted product, with wives as unpaid actors. Next came Janelle, calm, controlled, furious beneath the surface. She brought a different kind of weapon to the stand. Numbers, her own set of spreadsheets, years of co-managed family expenses, deposits made in her name, withdrawals made without her consent, all routed through an account she discovered only recently was owned solely by Robyn. Every month, I'd send in my share. I thought we were contributing equally. Turns out I was just funding a palace I wasn't allowed to live in. She held up a bank statement. In 1 month, $27,000 transferred from the shared account into the escrow fund for Robyn's Flagstaff mansion. Janelle wasn't on the deed. She wasn't even listed as a party to the mortgage. I was a ghost in my own family, she said, but my money was very much real. At that, the judge turned sharply to Kody. Mr. Brown, were you aware that funds from multiple wives were used to finance a home deeded solely to your legal wife? Kody hesitated. Then for the first time, he broke his silence. I was managing expectations, he said flatly. Someone had to. The room gasped. Christine closed her eyes. Janelle shook her head. Mary, silent until now, leaned back and whispered, unbelievable. Kody wasn't just accused. He had confessed with pride. The prosecution rested for the day, but the momentum was unstoppable. Headlines began rolling in before court even adjourned. Brown empire implodes. Christine reads journals in court. Judge slams Kody. You were managing a brand, not a family. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered, not fans, not hate, but former supporters, viewers who had followed the show for over a decade. Signs read, truth over TLC, justice for the wives, and the most chilling one of all, we bought the lie. That night, Christine's journals trended worldwide, and inside the courtroom, one truth echoed louder than any other. If this was love, it came with receipt. As Christine's journals echoed through the court and Janelle's bank statements built a trail of financial entrapment, the courtroom's attention shifted to an even more complex layer, the production contract. Because behind every manipulated emotion, behind every staged fight and dramatic reconciliation, loomed the camera crews, the lights, the scripts disguised as reality, and most importantly, the money. This wasn't just a family falling apart, this was a franchise unraveling, and the receipts led straight to Kody. The prosecution entered into evidence a set of documents subpoenaed from the show's parent network, production agreements, release forms, and royalty payment. Exhibit 48, the prosecutor announced, details how each season's storyline was pre-structured around conflict. Gasps filled the room as one clause stated, wives must appear in at least 2 scenes per episode, expressing dissatisfaction, romantic confusion, or spiritual struggle. Mary lowered her head. The prosecutor turned to the judge. Your Honor, we argue that Mr. Brown's family was not a family in practice, but a monetized conflict generator, with each wife serving as a character arc. Then came the bombshell, Kody's personal consulting agreement. Separate from his talent contract, he was paid an additional $75,000 per season to curate narrative direction. The document read, ensuring ongoing emotional tension among the wives. He wasn't just the father figure, he was the showrunner. Mary took the stand next. It had been years since her emotional breakdown played out on national TV, but this time, there were no producers, no retakes, no edit cuts, just truth, and it was raw. I thought we were a family with cameras, she began. Turns out, we were just camera subjects pretending to be a family. She recounted how moments were rewritten and how producers nudged her into emotional openness, and how her divorce was turned into a season-long arc while Kody cashed an executive fee. I lost my marriage and my dignity, Mary said, tears forming, and Kody told me it was for the brand. At that moment, Robyn shifted in her seat, finally facing the weight of the accusation. Her name had appeared in nearly every financial document, bank accounts, real estate transfers, Even Kody's bonus contract, she looked like someone watching the scaffolding around her carefully constructed world collapse. The courtroom wasn't just dissecting a marriage, it was exposing a monetized illusion, and the architect was seated at the defense table. Christine returned to the stand to read one more journal entry. He said, "We were a spiritual army, that each wife had a role in the greater mission. Turns out, our mission was to keep ratings high." Then the courtroom projector flickered to life. On screen, a never-aired scene, Kody talking to producers. "Yeah, get Janelle talking about independence. Christine's pulling away. That's our arc. I'll act blindsided next episode. Mary can be the heartbroken one. Robyn, she's the center now." The silence in the room was deafening. The judge turned to Kody. "Mr. Brown," he said, voice heavy, "is this how you define marriage?" Kody, for once, said nothing. That silence screamed louder than any testimony. Outside, protesters swelled, reporters swarmed, headlines evolved again. Judge reviews evidence of scripted marriage, reality TV, or real fraud. The case that's redefining entertainment. Social media exploded. Sister wives scam trended globally. Reddit threads speculated on how much Robyn knew, whether TLC would cancel the show, and whether the entire series had been one long con. But inside the courtroom, the prosecution had one final witness for the day, a former TLC producer. He walked slowly to the stand, nervous, pale, and then with one line, he detonated the day's final bombshell. "I was told to never let the audience sympathize too much with Christine or Janelle. The network believed conflict sold better than healing." The judge's gavel slammed the table. Court adjourned for the day. But there was no peace, not in that courtroom, not in the Brown family, not in the eyes of millions of viewers who now saw the truth. This wasn't a family broken by fame. This was a family built for it, and sacrificed to keep it alive. As court resumed the next morning, tension buzzed like static in the air. The courtroom was quieter, heavier. Robyn entered with her signature solemnity, her eyes darting from Kody to the prosecution bench. For years, she had been the protected one, the so-called favorite wife, the loyal partner, the emotional safe space. But now, every eye in the room saw something different. A strategist, not a survivor. Was Robyn the victim, or the architect of Kody's empire of emotional manipulation? The judge cleared his throat. "Call Robyn Brown to the stand." A hush fell. Robyn's hands trembled slightly as she took the oath. But as the first question landed, "When did you first know about the financial agreements that excluded the other wives?" Her face hard. "I didn't," she replied. But the prosecution moved quickly. "Then why?" the attorney asked. "Is your name listed as the co-signer on 4 properties, and the only listed beneficiary on the Coyote Pass refinancing deal?" A document was displayed on the projector. Robyn's signature dated 6 months before Janelle and Christine were ever told about the refinancing. Another document followed, a wire transfer $180,000 from a TLC bonus check, deposited directly into a shared account with Kody and Robyn's name only. Robyn looked stunned. "I thought," she whispered, "I thought that was for the family." The prosecutor stepped closer. "Which family?" The courtroom had stopped seeing Robyn as just the quiet wife. She was now the silent shareholder in a collapsing company. Christine's attorney presented a timeline. Robyn moved into a new mansion, complete with a private wing, while Janelle lived in an RV on Coyote Pass, and Christine struggled to pay her daughter's medical bills. The juxtaposition wasn't just painful, it was criminal. Then came the voicemail. Janelle had saved it for years. On the recording, Kody said, "Don't talk to Robyn about money. She doesn't handle that. I do. It's better this way. Cleaner." But the prosecution argued it wasn't cleaner, it was deliberate misdirection. The court called a financial forensic analyst, who revealed a secret LLC, one formed in Arizona, managed solely by Robyn. That LLC had purchased portions of Coyote Pass for land development venture. When asked who funded the LLC, the analyst replied, "All traceable funds originate from the family's TLC residuals account controlled by Kody, and yet none of the other wives were listed as members." It was a land grab, hidden beneath the title of spiritual marriage. Robyn began to cry, claiming she never wanted any of this, but the courtroom was unmoved. The judge asked, Did you ever tell the others about these documents? Robyn paused. No. Kody clenched his fist. Then came the revelation from a family lawyer, previously under NDA but now legally cleared to testify. Kody came to me in 2021, the lawyer said. He asked how to secure the land in Robyn's name only without triggering a full family audit. The silence was deafening. The courtroom stared at Robyn. Christine stared at Kody, and Janelle, she just nodded. She already knew. This wasn't just betrayal, it was legally orchestrated betrayal. Cameras outside the courthouse caught the growing protest, fans holding signs reading "Justice for Janelle, expose the fraud, and Coyote Pass belongs to all." Inside, the judge tapped his pen. So far, he said, we have seen a marriage built not on love, but on corporate compartmentalization, a house of cards posing as a family. He turned to Kody and Robyn. The court is prepared to issue a ruling on property fraud if no further counter evidence is submitted. Kody stood up, panicked. It was never about the money, he yelled. I loved them, but the judge shook his head. Mr. Brown, he said sternly, your actions speak otherwise. And with that, court was adjourned again, but this time, with fraud charges officially pending. The man once called the patriarch had just become the prime suspect in the dismantling of his own family. As the sun rose on day 4 of the trial, the media frenzy outside the courthouse had reached fever pitch. Satellite trucks crowded the street. Commentators speculated wildly. Some dubbed it the Brown betrayal trial. Others called it the reality TV reckoning. Inside the courtroom, though the mood was sober, grave, there was no laughter, no light, just silence, and the sound of truths finally clawing their way to the surface. What happens when a spiritual marriage is exposed as a paper trail of power plays and profit? Kody entered the courtroom, looking visibly shaken. His trademark confidence had cracked. No smile, no bravado. Robyn walked behind him, her eyes swollen from tears, or perhaps from exhaustion. But Christine and Janelle, they came arm in arm, focused, unbothered, and unwavering. The prosecution opened the day with a bombshell, a signed affidavit from a former TLC producer. It read, Kody Brown repeatedly requested changes to filming contracts that would secure higher personal bonuses, citing his need to manage the business of multiple wives. He explicitly asked that Robyn be featured more prominently due to her being a future brand extension. A future brand extension. Gasps rippled across the room. Christine couldn't help it. She laughed under her breath. The courtroom, tension cracked for just a second. Even the judge paused to glance over his glasses at Kody. But then it got worse. The producer also stated that Kody had pushed for a spin-off, one that would center around Robyn and their children, excluding the other wives entirely. The proposal included a business pitch where Kody described the family as a lifestyle product, and Robyn as the only remaining sellable unit. To the world, they were a family, but to Kody, they were a marketing funnel. The judge ordered that Kody's private email exchanges with TLC executives be submitted as evidence. What followed was a digital autopsy of a man obsessed with optics, branding, and empire building under the guise of love and faith. Then came a contract signed in the title, Property Disposition, Contingency Plan. Within it, clauses detailed how ownership of Coyote Pass would transition fully to Robyn in the event of emotional disengagement from any of the other wives. It wasn't just cold, it was calculated. Janelle took the stand now. With calm precision, she revealed how over time, Kody's focus shifted from unity to division. He began pitting us against each other, she said, voice steady, telling me Christine was manipulative, telling Mary I was ungrateful, telling Christine that Robyn was his only piece. He wasn't keeping the family together, he was building a throne. This wasn't polygamy, this was corporate monarchy. Janelle dropped a final piece of testimony, a voice memo recorded in secret of Kody in a private phone call. I'm not running a commune, I'm managing assets. Christine and Janelle, their liabilities now. Robyn gets it, she's a partner, not just a wife. The courtroom fell silent. Robyn covered her face. Kody froze. Christine stared straight ahead, expression unreadable. The judge leaned forward. Miss Brown, he said slowly, do you deny these statements? Kody didn't respond. Do you refute the accusation? The judge continued. that your marriage was not spiritual, but contractual with intent to financially defraud. Kody looked up, his voice barely a whisper. It was never supposed to go this far. The judge's gavel slammed down once, sharp and echoing. Intent, he said, is not nullified by regret. And with that, the court formally declared the launch of a fraud inquiry, triggering an investigation into every contract, every deed, every check signed under the Brown name. Outside fans were in disbelief. What began as a TV show about plural love had become a case study in how power distorts connection, and how secrets always demand their day in court. Christine stood in the hallway outside the courtroom, flanked by reporters. She didn't gloat, she didn't cry, she simply said, "We didn't want to destroy him, we just wanted to be free." And with that, Part 6 concludes, not with a bang, but with a reckoning that would only grow in magnitude. The courtroom had turned into a mirror, not just reflecting the legal fallout of Kody Brown's decisions, but exposing every fracture he had once hidden behind the glossy branding of family unity. By now, the nation had tuned in, not just fans of Sister Wives, but critics, journalists, legal analysts, and former polygamist community. Everyone wanted to know, was Kody Brown truly a man of faith, or a master manipulator with a business plan disguised as a marriage? This was no longer a trial about property, it was a trial about betrayal with receipts. As the next day of court began, Kody's legal team attempted damage control. They argued that the contracts, the brand deals and the property clauses were necessary to maintain financial security for such a large family. They leaned on the chaos of polygamy. They painted Kody as a provider under pressure, a man misunderstood and targeted for making hard financial choices in a unique domestic structure. But the court wasn't buying it, and neither were the wives. Christine was called back to the stand. This time, she came armed not just with words, but with her personal journals, written over 2 decades, pages filled with raw entries, heartbreak, moments of hope, and disturbing revelations. "He told me once, 'You're not a partner, you're part of the story. Robyn is the future.' I wrote it down that night so I wouldn't forget how it made me feel like a ghost in my own marriage." The courtroom gasped again. Christine continued, quoting from another entry, "He bought Robyn a $900,000 home while telling Janelle and me we couldn't afford plumbing for the Coyote Pass land. He said it was temporary. It wasn't. He never built for us, only for her." The judge leaned in. He asked, "Did Mr. Brown ever say the word investment when referring to you or your relationship?" Christine's reply, a chilling, "Yes, many times." Janelle followed, detailing bank transfers and loan documents that painted a disturbing pattern. Robyn's expenses were often listed as future development, while Christine and Janelle's living costs were coded under miscellaneous liability. But then came a subpoenaed recording, audio Kody never expected to resurface. In the clip, he was talking to a financial advisor. "If I can structure this right, the wives won't see the paperwork. We'll funnel through LLCs tied to the brand. That way I can secure the land, and they won't challenge it, because they won't even know what they signed." Silence, dead silence in court. Robyn looked like she had been slapped. Mary whispered something to herself. Cameras captured it. Lip readers later revealed, "He lied to all of us." This wasn't just manipulation, it was premeditated, strategic, and layered under a corporate veil. The judge called it what it was, a calculated use of marriage for personal capital. The emotional temperature spiked again when Kody finally took the stand. But instead of a confident defense, he unraveled, angry, defensive, his words chaotic, even insulting. He blamed TLC, he blamed Christine for being too emotional, he called Janelle entitled, he claimed Robyn deserved more because she stayed low. When the judge asked why none of the other wives were allowed access to the land titles or financial records, Kody snapped, "Because I was the one who made this family happen. I took the risk, I built the brand. They were part of it, sure, but the name Kody Brown is what brought the money. That land, that legacy, it's mine." And that was it. The final mask had dropped. The courtroom, once split in uncertainty, now unified in horror. The judge raised a single hand and said, Mr. Brown, in your own words, you've confirmed what this court already suspected, that your interpretation of plural marriage was not built on faith or love, but financial leverage, deception, and control. You are not a spiritual patriarch. You are a corporate figurehead cloaked in the illusion of domesticity. And in that moment, Kody wasn't a husband. He was a defendant, stripped of charm, credibility, and the carefully curated image he had spent years constructing. But there's still more testimony to come. Mary's about to speak, and her silence all these years may have been the most deafening of all. The tension in the courtroom was thicker than ever before. Christine's journals had already carved deep cracks into the false foundation Kody spent years constructing. Janelle's financial records turned suspicion into facts. But now, all eyes turned toward the woman who had remained on the fringes of this unraveling story. Mary Brown. For years viewers had labeled Mary as the silent soldier. The first wife, the most loyal, the one who endured the longest. She'd been isolated, shamed, emotionally starved, and constantly told to wait her turn. And she had until today. Mary took the stand, not with a stack of papers, but with something more damning: memory, sharp, unshakable, and stitched with betrayal. Her voice didn't shake, her hands didn't tremble, and what she had to say would leave the courtroom, and Kody speechless. She began with just one sentence: I stayed loyal, but he sold me like an asset. The judge asked her to elaborate. Mary revealed a contract, one she was pressured into signing years ago. It effectively transferred any stake she had in Coyote Pass to a Brown family holdings trust, which Kody controlled. She thought it was for tax purposes. She trusted him. But the fine print stated that if Mary ever legally separated from Kody, her claim to the land would dissolve. It was never about marriage. It was about positioning, she said. He secured me as the foundation, and then stripped me of everything once Robyn arrived. She went on to explain how Kody slowly iced her out of family decisions, eventually stopping financial support entirely, unless it was tied to public appearances or brand obligations. But then came the bombshell: audio messages, voicemails, Mary had kept as evidence. In one, Kody's voice was cold. I've moved on, Mary. You're still here because you're useful. Don't make this harder than it has to be. You know Robyn's the real wife now. Gasps filled the courtroom. The prosecution then called a surprise witness, a former TLC executive. This person claimed Kody pushed producers to remove scenes that showed his favoritism toward Robyn, and requested editing cuts that made Mary seem unstable or jealous. This wasn't just emotional manipulation. This was character assassination for profit. The judge, visibly disturbed, paused the session for 10 minutes. When court resumed, Mary handed over receipts showing how she personally helped fund part of the down payment for the Flagstaff property, money that had disappeared into what Kody had referred to as reinvestment for the brand. The final dagger came when the prosecution revealed an email chain between Kody and a financial advisor titled "Phasing Out Mary." In it, Kody inquired about options to shift Mary's assets into shared property, while minimizing her legal rights if she chose to leave. Mary turned to face him, her voice barely above a whisper, but cutting like a blade. You told me I was your eternal companion. Turns out, I was just the opening chapter. Kody didn't respond. Robyn, sitting behind him, wept silently. The illusion of unity was dead. This wasn't about spiritual unions anymore. It was a hostile takeover, and the judge knew it. The judge's next move was swift. He ordered an immediate freeze on all assets associated with Brown family holdings, pending full forensic account. He also issued a temporary injunction preventing Kody from making any unilateral decisions about Coyote Pass. What followed was even more damning. The court announced a criminal inquiry into financial misrepresentation and marital fraud. Kody was no longer just defending property, he was defending his freedom. The media erupted. Headlines across national news read, "Judge uncovers alleged financial abuse in sister wife's family. Mary Brown delivers devastating testimony in courtroom showdown. Kody Brown facing fraud charges tied to Coyote Pass. The courtroom enters a weekend recess, but the walls of Kody's empire are now crumbling at full speed. What started as a reality show marriage was now a legal thriller, with real victims, real money, and real consequence. When court resumed the following Monday, the media had already branded the weekend's developments as the Mary meltdown, but those who had followed the case closely knew better. This wasn't Mary melting down, it was Mary finally rising. And as she exited the courtroom that day with her head held high, the person who refused to meet her eyes was the same one who once called her his first and forever, Kody Brown. But the court wasn't finished. The spotlight shifted, brutally, to Robyn. For years Robyn had been seen as the favorite wife, the one who swooped in with promises of healing and harmony, only to become the center of what many now referred to as the Brown family collapse. But this time, Robyn wasn't just a witness. She was a participant in a complex web of financial maneuvers that would make the courtroom gasp in disbelief. It all started with a single wire transfer, one that should have never existed. The prosecution introduced a certified forensic accountant who had spent months tracing the Brown family's assets, particularly those tied to Coyote Pass and the broader family trust. What she uncovered was staggering. More than $250,000 had been discreetly funneled from the joint family account into a private LLC controlled solely by Robyn Brown, Sacred Hollow Holdings, an entity never previously disclosed in any public filings related to the family or their property. The account was opened just 3 weeks before Christine announced her decision to leave, and the transfers, they began immediately afterward. Christine's attorney stood up and dropped a chilling line. Was this a spiritual family or a spiritual exit plan? Robyn, pale and visibly shaken, claimed she was unaware of the LLC's purpose and that Kody had handled all legal documents. But the prosecution then displayed a signed digital affidavit from Robyn, confirming her knowledge of the account's creation, purpose and role in preserving the stability of the family's long-term vision. And then came the vision memo. It was a 6-page typed document, recovered from Kody's iCloud, dated during the height of the family's collapse. It laid out a strategic family evolution plan, wherein Kody proposed consolidating all marital assets into holdings overseen by Robyn and Kody exclusively, and effectively transitioning the other wives out with monthly goodwill stipends and NDA agreements to prevent future loss. The courtroom froze. Christine audibly gasped. Janelle shook her head in disgust. In this moment, the mask slipped, and what emerged wasn't a plural patriarch, but a man running a one-man corporation. The judge, clearly disturbed, interrupted the testimony. He demanded clarity from Kody. Did you or did you not plan to shift the collective marital assets away from your other wives without their knowledge? Kody's response was weak. I was trying to stabilize the family. It was all falling apart. I had to protect the brand. The courtroom erupted into whispers. The judge's next line would be quoted in every media outlet for weeks. Mr. Brown, your idea of family is not based on love or legality. It's based on control and corporate-style expulsion. That's not spiritual leadership. That's manipulation. Christine's attorney then read aloud emails between Kody and TLC producers, outlining his desire to restructure the show to focus entirely on Robyn and himself, suggesting that the other stories are getting messy and audience trust lies with Robyn now. Robyn, sobbing, attempted to interject. I thought we were protecting the family. Christine stood up from her seat without permission, risking contempt, and addressed the court directly. You weren't protecting the family, you were protecting your fairy tale. That line trended on social media for 48 hours straight. The court called for a brief recess, but as the gavel came down, it was clear this wasn't just fraud, it was a calculated purge disguised as plural marriage. As court resumed, the judge imposed a second freeze, this time on Sacred Hollow Holdings, with an injunction against Robyn and Kody from moving any funds related to Coyote Pass or the family trust. Outside the courtroom, dozens of protesters, many ex-fans of the show, held up signs that read, "Justice for the wives." Kody lied. Robyn cashed in, not a family, a franchise. Meanwhile, Christine, Janelle and Mary began drafting a joint civil complaint seeking damages for emotional manipulation, lost property rights, and brand exploitation. The judge warned that criminal charges could be considered if more evidence emerged. And yet, as the sun set behind the courthouse that day, Kody was still defiant. He told reporters, "They're bitter. They don't understand what it takes to lead. Robyn and I are the only ones still committed." But the only thing Kody was committed to now was facing the full weight of legal accountability. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, cameras stationed outside, and reporters jostling to catch the slightest expression on the faces of Kody, Robyn, Christine, Janelle and Mary. After weeks of testimony, bombshell financial revelations and gut-wrenching emotional fallout, it all came down to this moment, the final verdict in the case that would define not just the legacy of sister wives, but the truth behind the family that millions once admired. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Lawrence Hunt entered, raw, billowing like the final authority in a drama too real for reality TV. As he looked down at the bench, his eyes didn't hold pity, they held precision. "This court has reviewed all evidence, testimony, financial documentation and written statements from both plaintiffs and defendants. What we have uncovered here is not merely a civil dispute, but the dismantling of trust under the guise of spiritual unity." Kody sat rigid, lips pressed tightly. Robyn dabbed her eyes with a folded tissue, trembling. The Brown family, as presented to the public and reinforced in contractual obligations with TLC and its viewers, the judge continued, was not operating under equal partnership, nor honest disclosure of financial entitlements or land ownership. He cited the vision memo, the asset funneling, the LLC controlled by Robyn, the NDAs proposed for the wives, the attempted silencing of Mary, and most shockingly, the deliberate rerouting of TLC payments to accounts that excluded Christine and Janelle despite their equal contractual presence for over a decade. Then came the moment that would be etched in court history forever. This was not a marriage. This was a business scam clothed in religious rhetoric. Gasps, audible sobs. Janelle lowered her head. Christine's jaw clenched, Robyn froze, and Kody. He laughed, a dry, almost scoffing chuckle that prompted the judge to slam his gavel down with startling force. "Mr. Brown, your arrogance is no longer protected by televised fame or spiritual title." The courtroom fell into dead silence. Effective immediately, the court rules that all property jointly held under the Brown family trust, specifically Coyote Pass, is to be liquidated and sold. The proceeds will be equitably divided among all parties based on original contributions, time of residency, and involvement in public monetization. Kody stood up, his face red. "This is my land, my dream. You're destroying it." "No, Mr. Brown," the judge shot back, "you did." In a shocking addition, the judge ruled that Robyn must return $420,000 to the family trust, the amount siphoned through Sacred Hollow Holding. And perhaps the most unexpected judgment, the court ordered that all future monetization tied to Sister Wives, Season 20 and beyond, be split equally among Christine, Janelle and Mary, excluding Kody entirely. "You no longer get to profit from those you discarded," the judge stated. Outside, a storm of reporters waited, but no one expected what Kody did next. He walked past them all, silent, no cameras, no quotes, no defiant statement, just Robyn trailing behind him in tears, her hand on his shoulder, trying to hold on to what little remained. Meanwhile, inside the courthouse, Christine hugged Janelle. Mary remained still but peaceful, the kind of peace that comes after war. One reporter caught Christine's smile. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "Every minute," she said. "We finally got our voices back." Online, the reaction exploded. Kody exposed by court, trended for 48 hours straight. TLC's lawyers issued a bland press statement. The network executives met in emergency sessions to figure out how to pivot the upcoming season. Fans posted side-by-side images of Kody's mansion and the empty Coyote Pass land now slated for auction. Someone started a GoFundMe for Mary's future retreat business, and Twitter was filled with variations of one haunting line: "This was never a family, it was a franchise." As the gavel fell for the last time, one truth remained: Kody Brown may have built an empire on faith and family, but it crumbled under the weight of lies, manipulation, and greed. The scam was over, the verdict was in, and the world would never look at Coyote Pass the same again.